To start our webinar, please welcome the chairman of the Upie Department of Industrial Engineering and Operations Research, Professor Eric Yaguno, to give the welcome remarks and an overview of the department. Eric?
Thank you, John. Okay, on behalf of the Department of Industrial Engineering and Operations Research, I warmly welcome all the participants in today's webinar, the students, undergraduate and graduate students from the IE department, from the other departments within the college, and also students outside of the College of Engineering. I, of course, also welcome alumni who are joining us today in this webinar. As mentioned by Jom, the webinar series that we'll be having for the month of May is actually part of the 110th anniversary, year-long celebration of anniversary of the College of Engineering. But in a sense, these webinars also kick off our preparations for our 50th anniversary, this coming July 31. So we'll have a series of activities come June, leading up to the July 31 celebration. So I checked the other day as of last year, we have already graduated a total of 3,300 plus undergraduate students and about close to 300 graduate students. I mean, that's a lot, and we see them all around, with their accomplishments in the different areas. Okay, so as far as our webinar series is concerned, essentially the objective really is to showcase or to feature the different tracks of the program. You have human factors, operations research, production systems, and information systems. Okay. Essentially, we would like to guide our students, and show them the different opportunities available to them when they graduate. The other day, actually, I got my son forwarded to me a Reddit post. I think this from our student, and let me read you some of the portions of this Reddit post, which says, balita ko from alums, from org and other profs, medyo relatively mataas sahod ng mga IE pagka-grad. Is this true? Masaya ba kayo sa ginagawa ninyo? What do you do pala? Okay, I will leave the answer to those questions to our speakers today. But essentially, these are the questions we would like to answer, or enlighten our students. Okay. During my time, I used to memorize what is IE, that it's concerned with the design, improvement, installation of integrated systems. I memorized that. That's a mouthful, by the way, so that when somebody asks me, what do you do? I actually, that's part of my script to say that. But again, of course, the next question is, hindi nga, so what do you do? So, and that's really a tough question, and I was surprised some of the graduates from the earlier batches would tell me that they got to learn what an IE does when they were actually working. Okay. Well, in my case, I learned it when I was about to enter fifth year. So I'm assuming that with with internet around, our students as early as first year, second year would have a clear knowledge of what IE is all about. But I guess that's not really entirely true. Okay, I've asked some of my students quick survey, and they told me that, sir, we have some, very vague understanding of what IE really is all about. And I asked them, so why did you take IE? Because I have some friends or friends of friends who said na marami yung opportunities and mataas yung sweldo. Okay, so those were the reasons given to me. So with these webinars for the whole month of May, our objective is really to put some, to make it very clear to our students what have they gotten into. Okay, IE is a very flexible program. You have a lot of opportunities. So today, for day one, we'll be focusing, of course, on OR, operations research, and information systems. We will have to hear our two distinguished alumni talk about the wealth and their the experiences they've had in this particular career. So of course, I'd like to thank UPIAA for always supporting our initiatives in the department. The two clubs, I Club and SIEM, okay, for their support. So let us all let's enjoy the webinar today, and let's all be inspired by the experiences, no, of our speakers for today. Morning.
Thank you very much, Eric. Um, so without further ado, let us present to you some of our outstanding alumni who, if we follow what Eric just said, must be very wealthy right now. Wealthy in terms of knowledge and experience. So to introduce our first speaker, please welcome Jason Joseph Fernandez. Jason?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So our first speaker is Jerry Rapes. Jerry Rapes is the president and formerly managing director of Amihan Global Strategies Philippines. Amihan is an IT consulting company offering software platform and application development, as well as technology outsourcing. Amihan's major clients have included Metro Pacific Tollways, Pioneer Insurance, and Golden ABC, the holding company for fashion brands Pen Shop and Memo. Jerry personally acted as practice executive for the data analytics engagement and with Metro Pacific Tollways and the digital transformation project with Pioneer Insurance. Prior to Amihan, Jerry was CEO and general manager at Exist Global, an IT solutions provider with deep technical expertise in Java and sectoral specialization in the healthcare and telecoms sectors. For St. Luke's Medical Center, his team built the healthcare information system, the medical records management, and the doctor's portal. He is also the founding president of DevCon Foundathon, a nonprofit that showcases IT Pinoy talent through on-conferences, geek ops, and boot camps. Jerry has also been active in the Cebu business scene as a member of the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Cebu Education Development Foundation, and Cebu in IT, a Cebu-based tech business incubator and joint project of DOST and UP Visayas. Jerry has also been instrumental in nurturing DCTX, a loose group of Cebu based software developers, which recently developed RapidPass, a first Generafon's software tool to track and monitor mobile individuals during the quarantine. Rapis' team then developed the next generation product called SafePass to assist the public agencies as well as private entities to reopen the economy or their specific enterprises more safely. Rapes also held key executive positions in G2IX and AUR marketing, where he established his IT sales and marketing roots. He started out as a consultant in SGV Anderson Consulting, and he is a graduate of BSIE from UP in 1987. Without further ado, here is Mr. Jerry Rapes.
Thank you for the super gracious uh, introduction. It's a pleasure to share some of our experiences in the industry, with students as well as the alums. I'd like to thank the board of UPI EAA for inviting me. Hopefully, yung topic ko today would shed light on what an IE does, how the IE should enjoy his professional career, and also if it's financially rewarding. No? So yung financially rewarding, siguro questionable yan according to Joe Marie. No? Um, cool. So let me quickly share my screen lang so that I can walk you through what information systems kind of look like today. So I I graduated from UP in '87. Um, at that time, IE for me was a way to find my way through my professional career. Kasi I wasn't completely decided on what to do. So yung IE program, because it was flexible, as Chairman Eric mentioned, provide me the opportunity and the tools. So when I got into my professional career, I found out that the tools that were introduced in the university equipped me to do what I do today. And my mission in Amihan is to transform enterprises. How do we rapidly change how the enterprise does business today? Um, when I was in UP, my first line of code, just to date myself, was via ES26 on a software language called Fortran. My last line of code, and mind you, I wrote software on punch cards. So we had to pay 5 centavos per card for somebody to type it in. And normally there's typographical error. Then you spend the whole how many hours trying to figure out what went wrong for a very simple, parang welcome world program. My last line of code I wrote was in SGV. It was in COBOL. So imagine writing COBOL code today is still there because a lot of AS400 systems are still running on COBOL or RPG. But so much has changed in the from the time I graduated until now. No? Um, parang hindi ko ma imagine na in this lifetime you would be in a society where we had to share telephones. No, before we had party lines. Party lines were in effect, for those who don't know what they are effectively uh, tawag nito, they're effectively extension phones with different telephone numbers. And today you see people walking around with 3 phones and dual SIM. So they effectively have 6 telephones. No? In our time, it was different. That's the reason why we think that transforming the enterprise is a must today. Now, this slide is there's a slider there that says between 0 to 100%. Because people always ask, how fast should I transform? What should I do? Is this a technology thing? No? We rarely say it's a technology thing. The mission of Amihan is always to say it's a customer thing. Now, you have to put transformation, your customer, in the center of all the transformation initiatives that you're doing. That's our mindset. You know? The reason why the customer is the most important element in any kind of change that you're doing is because the customer builds your business. Um, we started initially, in my younger years, it was always a technology thing. We were very religious about technology. So we were open source guys who like Java, who like all these stuff. And then we fought with Microsoft guys because they were always closed code, diba? They were always licensed models. We were always open source. Rarely did we realize that it's not about the tech only. No, it's about what the customer needs. The tech is just there to support it. Hence, the reason today, I won't talk too much about tech, baka kasi magsulat pa ako ng COBOL codes. I would rather talk about what customers need in this changing time. So this is a very quick summary of what the digital Filipino looks like today. So it's amazing. We have 110 Filipinos, man, woman, child. We have over 120 million cell phones. We have more cell phones than we have people. No, and that's counting every single person. No? And then this is where it gets really, really fuzzy. No? 97% of people in the internet use phones, not laptops. 97%. No? So the reason why I'm saying this is because if you're developing software and you're not mobile first, you're probably not hitting your customers. Because we tend to say, oh, let's build the web application first, then figure out mobile later on. But this is a survey done in 2020. No, 2019, published in 2020. People transfer money every month. Now, you know when that's true because when InstaPay decided to reinstate 25 pesos per transaction, there was an uproar, because people do send money online nowadays. 76% now of the total population that used internet, which is age 16 to 64, made a purchase online. 76% of them made a purchase online last month. And their online is purchases are done via the phone. 66% on the phone, 28% on the laptop. Tapos dito naman sa social media, the Filipinos spend 9 hours a day on devices. So we work 8 hours, quote unquote. We sleep 8 hours. We spend 9 hours on devices. We actually spend more hours in devices than working, or spend more hours in devices than sleeping. And majority of those on devices, if I am not mistaken, about 89% of Filipinos are on Facebook. 87% are on Messenger. No? Kaya when people say, oh, build me a chatbot, but I want it done on WhatsApp, we would look at them and say, are you sure? Sabi na bakit? Kasi WhatsApp, you have to tell them to download. If you use Messenger, they already have it. In fact, a lot of phones today have Facebook embedded already, downloaded, preloaded. So you don't have to tell people to download. Yung download kasi is always a hurdle in building applications. Hence the reason why there are new ways to build apps called PWAs, or progressive web applications. They look like native apps, but they're web. No? But there is no download. Maganda kasi dyan, wala nang download. And it's like, it's mobile first from day one. No? So we can send you the link of this report. This report is publicly available. It talks about the digital world, then it talks about the Philippine versus the digital world. Very comprehensive. No? Tells you where people spend their time, what they buy. No? Like if you're trying to go to e-commerce, what do people buy online with higher propensity versus, it's an amazing report. No? It's done by Hootsuite. I can give this to Chairman Eric after the session. So when we do transformation in companies, and as a practice executive, I normally look at four things. So when we go to a company, rarely do we ask, what do you want? Kasi most companies don't know what they want. In this new world, it's very difficult to say what I want. No? And sometimes it's fuzzy. No? So we normally show them what we think industries are looking at, because the customers are looking for it. So ito yung apat na bagay. Firstly, is let me start on the lower left-hand quadrant, which is onboarding a customer. When we spoke to Penshop a couple of years back, I think this was like 6 years ago, we were talking about digital transformation to a brick and mortar company, di ba? Kasi they have 600 stores present in 10 countries, and they're to date, they're still the fastest growing fast fashion company. They're top 20 according to Business World in a recent survey, even through the pandemic. So they're doing really good in that business. So when I spoke to Bernie, the chairman, and the CEO, I said, Bernie, we won't change anything that you're doing good already. Let's talk about your biggest store, which is going online. This was in 2015. And they said, but we're in Zalora and Lazada already. Tapos ang question ko is, and this can be validated, do you own the customer? Do you have the customer details? Email, mobile phone, delivery details? Sabi niya, no. Lazada or Zalora has it. Then you're not online. No, you have to own the customer relationship, or else you're not online. No? So I will walk you through itong ginawa namin for BAP, kasi it's nice to talk about things. It's good to show you things. No? So these are things that are public already. No? So we can show them to you. I'll show you what we did for the Bankers Association of the Philippines. where if you have one account from one bank, to open an account in another bank, you don't even have to fill up forms. So this went into a live pilot recently on these three banks. Then moving upwards, our chairman, si Joe Marie and the rest, some of the guys in this call know our chairman, si Winston. He always says na ang problema kasi in a lot of transformation is you only change the front end. He calls it lipstick on a pig. No, if you have a really nice front end, pero it's still a pig. No, kasi ang inayos mo lang yung front end. In other words, this is where you see Google Forms or MS Forms being used, diba? Kahit contact tracing, you fill up a form, it gets thrown to the backend. If it's an application form, that application form gets printed and routed. So it's manual. Manumatic siya. Auto in the front end, manual on the back end. No? So Alfresco and Activity changes the workflow, creates a workflow engine for you to automate that entire process. Let me power through kasi medyo time is of the essence. The third quadrant, which is the right quadrant upper, is Neo4j or a graph database. It graphs relationship. This is where I'll show you how SafePass knows na if this person is infected, how will I track the next person and at what degree of infection or at what degree of contamination is that person going to be categorized on. And then lastly, dito sa ilalim is how do I talk to people? Kasi if you want to touch the millennials, hindi na siya through a call center. No, it's really through a chat engine. Now, when we did the first transformation for a telco a couple of years back, I always use this question, di ba? How many people texted you last New Year? I mean, I'm not even asking how many people called you anymore because people don't call anymore on New Year's. They texted you. It was about this was around 2013, 2012. Sabi nung kausap ko, about 50 people. In 2016, I asked him, how many people texted you on New Year? One. Diba parang, people don't engage anymore via talk or via texting. They still message you, pero OTT na, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Viber, whatever it is. No? So that has completely changed the landscape. If you're a telco leveraging on text money, you will really feel the impact. No? So it's important to understand the conversation model and what you can do on conversation platforms. So very quickly, I will show you videos. No, para it's please let me know if you hear the audio. So this is the BAP application that we built for them. No? Leveraging on Hyperledger, which is a Linux Foundation platform of blockchain. Okay. In the interest of time, I will just skip that video. I'll just walk you through it. No? Sorry, I didn't test it out earlier. No? I thought it was okay. Essentially, yung ginawa namin sa BAP is if you're a customer of video and you said, I want to get a loan in, let's say, Union Bank kasi maganda yung package, diba? So in the past, when I go to Union Bank, I'd say, I want to get a loan. They'd say, fill up ka ng form. So what the BIP ID registry is supposed to do is it's supposed to leverage on the eKYC done by a previous bank. So sasabihin lang if you go to Union Bank will say, are you a depositor in Union Bank? Sabi na, no. Are you a depositor in any bank? Yes, I have a BDO account. Okay. The teller will key in BDO, then it asks BDO na BDO, meron ka raw customer, itong si Joe Marie Mercado. He wants to open an account here. No? I need the details. And then BDO will now send a message to Joe Marie via text or via email. Say, Joe Marie, are you applying something in Union Bank? If you say yes, please inform us via response, and this is your OTP. And then you show your OTP to the Union Bank teller or clerk. She keys that in, and now BDO will say, okay, Union Bank, I'm sharing this data to you, which I have validated one time to open Joe Marie's account. Yeah. And then it pre-fills your form. All you need to do is sign the form. So that's effectively what this ID registry can do. Just imagine if you take it to the next level. If you take this to insurance, if you take this to stock brokerage. No? Kasi right now, to fill up a stock brokerage application form is like 7 pages. No? And then you have to do a video call. And then you have to schedule that. And then we're saying that we want financial inclusion. Di ba? Well, we want people to participate, but we make it very difficult for them to join. Today, Union Bank is doing a great job. ING is doing a great job also on opening your accounts online, pero only for them. Dito kasi is across banks. No? So that's the concept of this ID registry. Now, we're thinking of the next generation ID registry that would think about PhilSys and that will think also about um, the open finance platform ng BSP. Cool, sige. So, power through this. Ito naman is if we're looking at automating your backend, di ba? Na-onboard mo na, ito backend naman ang gawin natin. No? So let's see how it looks like today. So if you're looking at the mobile phone, this is a loan platform that leverages only on chat. Go to menu, these are all the things that you can do. Sabi nung user, gusto ko mag-loan. No, so I apply for a loan. It will say, okay, magkano gusto mo? 4,000, 5,000, 5,000. How do you want to pay it in 1 month's time? And then it will say, okay, please take a look at the promissory note. Now, this promissory note goes out of the chat and goes to a core system in the bank. No? So the idea also of information systems today is to allow systems to talk to each other. Hindi yung tipong I will not share anything with you kasi iba tayo. It's about connecting our systems, no? Designing the architecture for connected systems. You confirm the loan, that goes to a backend and says, confirm, I'll send you an OTP. Makikita mo yung mga OTP message notification senders. These are all services na lang. We don't even build that anymore. You send the OTP to them and then it confirms. Yun na yung loan mo, na-apply na. Kung nag-apply ka after 4 p.m., it will be processed on the next banking day. So it doesn't mean that it's processed immediately. It gives you an approval. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it goes to a different process depending on your capability to pay. So this is what I talked about, yung alfresco backend. That's automating the entire backend of your processes. Okay, enough of this. Next is, now how do we use data to relate people? No? So I'll show you a little bit about how SafePass does it. No? So SafePass uses kasi graph database to categorize risks. So we manage risks using Neo4j or graph database. So ito yung mga categories. Kung 15 minutes ka in contact with a particular person in the same location when you're scanning in, you're considered high risk. So you define all these categories, di ba? Kaso lang, when you're going into a location, ang dami kasing tao yan di ba? There's a lot of people going in and going out and you'd have to tag the time. So to manually trace this is sort of next to impossible. Therefore, you really need automation to make it happen. Analytics is one of the key elements in contact tracing. No? So this is the simplistic way to look at it. If you have an infected person that goes to multiple locations, it takes a time, it takes an identity, and it says that itong taong to came close contact, very much proximity, 15 minutes within the time frame they were in the same location. And the traceable contact also had secondary exposure, second gen exposure to others who are also in the same room kahit na nakaalis na yung infected pero nandyan yung first contact person. And what is the risk? So the graph database actually maps that out based on the rules that you've created and tells you ito yung mga taong kailangan i-contact mo. And you can either send them an SMS directly or you just manage it manually. Kasi sometimes sending an SMS is difficult, no, because it creates a panic situation. So some enterprises that we work with, they would rather get a list and then they will inform the people on their own. However, SafePass has that feature na pag na-identify na yung risk parameters and you create a list of contacts, it can immediately say, do I send an SMS? So it can send an SMS via an SMS service to the first gen or first category or high category contacts. No? So, and all of these things, we don't have to build the graph database because the graph database engine, you just buy the license for it. There's an open source version for that as well. And then my last example is on talking to people. No? So Saffron is one of the startups that we built for insurance to disrupt insurance companies. And we built an app called Nanay. No? NAN.ai. The idea is when you're selling micro insurance, these are normally people who work during the day and then sideline on the insurance at night. No? Kaso lang, they have to fill up forms. Nauubos yung oras nila tapos nadidelay pa yung submission. No? So what we've done is we created a chat for agents. So it's a data collector for agents. No? So it collects important details on the process of selling an insurance. No? Ito, pili ka. What insurance product do you like? Okay, you chose this. What's your name? My name's Mark. Um, uh, it, my going through the process. What's your mobile number? Important yung mobile number kasi that way I can verify with you, no, if I have questions. And then, what's your birthday? Kasi if it's an insurance product, it may require birthday data for it to compute, no? And then it'll ask you, is this correct? No, tama ba? When you say correct, okay, that throws back to the back end. Now before they'd have to write a form and type it up and send it. Now it just goes immediately to the back end. That's a list. There's an added feature which we showed you, which is to OCR a particular form. No? Kasi some people still want a paper form. So what this platform can do is use the Google OCR platform. So everything is cloud-based. No? Google Vision is the Google OCR platform that OCRs the application form. Yun lang, there are limitations kasi limitation ng quality of the camera, the way the picture is taken, angle. No? So it's not perfect. And we go through that struggle. No? But the technologies today are available to accelerate that. Even without the OCR, just being able to get that data is really cool, diba? Just imagine if you were a real estate company, then you're doing a mall tour, if you still do that. Before, you'd have to sign a logbook, diba? When you talk to a customer or a potential customer. Today, you just take his name, phone, number, email address. I'll send you a brochure. And immediately, if you have a campaign engine, you send it, immediately the campaign engine can actually send the brochure. So you make it digital. So, last few slides lang, no? Okay pa ba ako, Jo Marie? Can I have like 5 minutes? Okay lang.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so these are the pillars that you need for transformation. Number one, you have to have infrastructure. And the thing about infrastructure today is you don't have to buy servers anymore. You deploy stuff to the cloud. So when we were doing big data analytics a couple of years back, we would say that you have to buy 7 nodes of servers. Then we reduced it to 3 nodes of servers. Then now we just say, let's just build it in AWS. So for one of our clients that's going on board, their analytics engine is pure cloud. So this is how the old IT and new reality looks like. No, we always say hybrid. Hindi pwede yung pure cloud yet, in my opinion, because number one, we have regulations. When you're a regulated industry, you may need to maintain some local servers. Second is because internet is still an issue to a certain for certain areas, because we're an archipelago. Sometimes pulling the data directly into the cloud and it gets cut, you will have to redo it, and it takes time. So we build what we call an ingest server that's local, that stages everything and then throws everything to the cloud. The other thing lang you have to watch about the cloud, public cloud, is they're sneaky. No? They will give it to you for practically nothing to store things with them. Pero try pulling data from them. The data transfer cost from the cloud back to you is going to be very expensive. Pero storing data, lalo na archiving, it's money, talagang cents. Pero pulling data is the one thing you have to be careful. So yung workloads, you have to balance it. Kaya when we do analytics, we throw the data in the cloud, we do all the analytics in the cloud, wala nang bato-bato, and then we only throw back the insights, which are just dashboards and reports, and they're very lightweight. So you have to build strategy lang around that. Next is we think data engineering is really important. When you have infrastructure, and by infrastructure, I mean you should also allow your systems to talk to each other. You should have a data team to understand your data. Now, the data we're creating today is crazily amazing. No? So I'm a guy who never erases an email. So I've worked from 2006 up to now. I have never erased an email that's business related. No, so contracts, I can go back all the way to 2006, basta IT na contracts. But the first, from 2006 to 2013, yung binibigay ni Gmail, kasi we've always been a Google Suite company, yung binibigay ni Gmail, I cannot even imagine consuming it. But today, the acceleration of your consumption of data is and storage is crazy. And it will only get bigger. Kaya important ngayon is how do we now compress your data so that you can do analytics on it without having to spend an arm and a leg for infrastructure. So we're doing this for one media company. They say, oh, we have a very big data. It's X number of gigs per day on data. No? And syempre, when you analyze their traffic of their consumers, you need at least a month. So just to do a 1 month analysis is crazy big size of data. So we were able to shrink their data to 10%. We will only analyze the 10% kasi the 90% hindi siya relevant for the current data requirement. No? So you need data engineering talent to figure this out. Now, how do we now use your data? We throw it somewhere cheap. We only manage and consume the relevant ones. So we built two hybrid architectures. One that's on-premise, then scale to the cloud. This has been deployed multiple times. So our folks, we buy the server, we fix it in our data center, we rack it, then we configure it, we take it down, we pack it, we bring it to the customer, we rack it, we turn it on. In 90 days, you have a big data platform in 90 days. That's our commitment. Now, it's not fast enough and it's not small enough. So we designed a pure cloud. So they say, how fast do you need to set this up? In 90 days, it's now 30 days. No, 30 days may buffer pa kami niyan. Kasi it will take us some time to understand their data. And then setting up the platform, just setting up itong cloud environment nila ngayon is really just clicking Amazon dashboards. Then Amazon pa will tell you, oh, this is how much it will cost. If you commit to me for 1 year, it will be 40% cheaper. So it's kind of that fast. No? Lastly, is yung businesses want things to be faster today. And they also don't want, ang problema kasi sa software engineering before, and let me show you how software is built. This is really how software is built, even today. No? You start with planning, design, releases, then you implement it. It's still the same thing. Pero companies expect this to be done faster. No? So number one, how can we accelerate this? One, you'd have to have environments ready. No? Environments ready, so you have a dev environment, as an SIT or a UAT environment, user acceptance testing environment, production environment. So on day one, you set that up already, and you can only do that in the cloud. Second is you identify your common libraries. Kunyari, login. Why do you have to code login every time? Diba, login is a feature you use for anything. You should have a library for that already. Um, Reports. Diba? How different can reports be? Use a reports generator. There are reports generators that are available today, and what fits you? Jasper reports, Crystal reports. They create the reports for you. You don't have to code the reports, and many other things. Security, di ba? Para some people spend a lot of time on security because it's dangerous, but there are security platforms that are available today to at least manage certain things. Kunyari, kung identity management, we use Keycloak. To do DDoS, denial of service protection, we use Cloudflare. No? Parang we've assembled all these bits and pieces to put it together para mabilis. No? And then lastly is we run the iterations faster. So we run 2 weeks iterations now. Our goal is to always have working software in 90 days. That's always 90 days. But the diagram, it's still the same. You just really need to move faster. You need to tool up. I think the biggest problem today in software engineering is changing the mindset of the customer. No, kasi yung customer, minsan, they want everything to be there on day one. For me, that's not the best way. The best way is to have your foundation ready on your first activity so you can do all the necessary, I'd say, common activities on day one. And then you build on top of it yung mga additional services. No? For me, that's the fastest way to do it. But sometimes corporate dictates kasi how they want things done. But this is still how it is today. Now, before lang, it was really, really long planning. And then once it goes into development, you can't change anything anymore. Today, you go to planning. In development, you can reprioritize. No? But there's still a limitation on timeline and people. Cool. So as a company, this is what we do. We help companies transform. These are some of the companies we work with. And our biggest goal is really to make sure that companies navigate this digital divide. Now, the need for information, the need for data, the need for understanding of the customer has never been greater, than it is today. No? Because you don't see your customer face to face anymore today. You don't even shake their hands. You know is their IP address, no, and probably their login details and their mobile phone number. So it's important that you're able to use that information to create an environment where your customer feels that you know them, without, of course, being big brother. So yeah, thanks guys. I hope I didn't take up too much time, Jumps.
That's okay, Jerry. Thank you very much for sharing that. For someone who started his career as a systems analyst programmer, you certainly brought back a lot of memories, and your presentation made me feel really, really old because of the differences of then and now. So, Jerry, if you don't mind sticking around, because we have some questions that are coming in already, and take advantage of those questions when we get to our open forum later. All right. Again, reminder to our participants, please, if you have any questions, please post it on the chat box, and then we will try to cover those questions, have our speakers answer those questions at the end of our webinar. So let's go right away to our next speaker. To introduce our next speaker, please welcome Professor Simon Anthony Monty Lorenzo. Monty?
Good afternoon, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so um, it is my honor to introduce today's second guest speaker. Okay, so Elise Del Rosario was the president of the International Federation of Operational Research Studies, or IFORS, from 2007 to 2009. An organization with around 60 national societies and 30,000 individual members, iForce announced the inclusion of Elise among its first batch of 20 iForce Fellows in January this year. The only Asian and woman in the batch, she was cited for her dedicated efforts over the years to help iForce promote the development of OR worldwide, both in methodology and practice, and to link member societies together. She has consistently been at the forefront of iForce developing countries' initiatives, having organized conferences on this topic in Manila, Tunisia, Lleida, Rome, India, Brazil, Scotland, UK, Mexico, Sri Lanka, Poland, Canada, Madrid, Ireland, and online. Sobrang dami. She served as editor of the iForce newsletter till 2017. Elise was an OR analyst at the San Miguel Corporation or SMC. Later, with her as its manager, the OR department of SMC garnered the 1992 Operations Research Society of America or ORSA Prize for outstanding and ongoing use of operations research in organizational decision making. It was during her SMC years that she spearheaded the formation of the Operations Research Society of the Philippines or ORSP. Upon retirement from the San Miguel Corporation as vice president in charge of operations research, Elise has since gone into consulting but was really challenged by the pro bono work she did with the Philippine government in her capacity as chairperson of the Operations Research Society of the Philippines Committee on OR for Public Service or ORSP Corps. Even as an active OR practitioner, she maintains links with the keynoting national conferences, as well as publishing papers, acting as referee and serving in the editorial boards of several international OR journals, notably of the UK Journal of the Operational Research Society. She is currently Chief Financial Officer of One Small Step Forward Foundation, Inc., a family foundation that helps public elementary school children. She obtained her undergraduate degree in industrial engineering and operations research from the University of the Philippines, the graduate degree in industrial engineering and management from the Asian Institute of Technology in Bangkok, and was an international research fellow at the Stanford Research Institute. She lectured at the UP Graduate School of Engineering. Prior to doing OR, she did financial analysis work. She received outstanding alumni awards from the Philippine Science High School, University of the Philippines, and the Asian Institute of Technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Mrs. Alice Del Rosario.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction. So let me share my screen. Ever since we joined, or at least my generation joined the IE course in UP, we had always been told that not to settle for the status quo because there is always a better way. And operations research is also known as science of better. So if you take them together, you can say doing IE the OR way. So this is my Science of Better pin, which was distributed during one conference. Before we start, let me ask Maan to share the poll. I would like to ask you a question. So please choose only one answer. To me, operations research is, and don't worry if you say that you know nothing about it, because I realize that some of you have not taken operations research at all. We're still getting results. And so far, it is a good indication of how you understand operations research. So let's end the poll. And well, a comment is that I am very glad that no one said that it's not relevant to the real world, because I have heard that said before. So I just wanted to know whether you believe that. So let's go to the presentation. OR is used in the real world. Have you seen these apps? So Google Maps and Waze. I'm sure you have, especially those of you who drive, you've seen this, you've used this. Do you know that this app has OR inside it? In the sense that to go from point A to point B, the app looks for the shortest distance between those 2 points. And that is made possible through Dijkstra's algorithm. You're very lucky these days because it's already in the apps, it's already in the package. During the time when I joined San Miguel in the 80s, we had to program this algorithm so that we know the shortest paths to the customers from the warehouses. So you received your orders from Shopee and Lazada by Lalamove. So definitely your rider used the navigation app. But how does he know? He came from, when coming from another customer, he used his navigation app. But how does he know the sequence in which to visit all the customers to whom he will deliver the orders? Well, let us look at the bigger picture. And let me tell you, it's not his decision. Here is the bigger picture. This is a map of a portion of Metro Manila. This is the dispatching point. And here we have 16 customers and 4 vehicles. So the problem now is how to choose, how to group them into 4 so that you're able to deliver all the orders. And this is a classic vehicle routing problem, which is tackled in operations research. This is the formulation. Those of you who have taken OR would be familiar with this. You want to minimize cost, and then you want to make sure that vehicle capacity is not exceeded and demand is met. So X is a 0-1 variable, 0 if the route is not used, and 1 if it is used. This optimization will lead to this solution. So we have an optimized route plan. However, there are things to be considered in the real world. One is the use of time windows. This reminds me of an application that we did in San Miguel where we had to schedule the technicians who clean the draft beer equipment in the restaurants and in the pubs. So they would have to go there during the time that there are no customers or the restaurant is closed. So we had to do the VRP, the vehicle routing problem, during the times when the restaurant or the pub is closed. And normally that would be in the morning up to the early afternoon, although there are some exceptions. So we had to take that into consideration in our scheduling. The other thing that you need to consider are split deliveries. In other words, a customer or a customer's order may not be enough to be carried in one. I mean, it's so large that it cannot be carried in one vehicle, so you have to split it. The other model is when you have to do pickups and deliveries, which is very common in grocery mobile apps because your rider can go from one supermarket or more than one supermarket before he goes to your doorstep and deliver the goods to you. The other real world problem that are considered in these models is customer service level. And this is more felt in food deliveries because they are very strict about the time at which food deliveries have to arrive at the client's doorstep or at the customer's doorstep. Therefore, the way that this is dealt with is you introduce an objective function which says, which let's say includes a penalty for late deliveries. It also includes some uncertainties in the time it takes to deliver the order. So far, we have talked about the last mile. So that is when your rider goes to the customer to deliver the goods. And that is what we call the last mile. How about the first mile? What is the first mile? The first mile is when finished products from plant are delivered to the warehouse. And let me share with you an experience that we had in San Miguel. So assume this is a brewery and the beer, finished beer products are delivered to a big warehouse. Well, there are two reasons for getting all the finished products out of the brewery. It's because the brewery does not have enough space for them. They have space for for goods in process, for raw materials, but rarely space for finished goods. So they are brought immediately to the big warehouse. The other reason is that you want the beer to be closer to the customer, closer to where it will eventually be delivered. So the problem we had in this first mile delivery concerns our trucks, freight trucks, 10-wheelers, 22-wheelers. San Miguel then owned 54 tractor trailers, which are assigned to bring the beer from the breweries to various warehouses in Metro Manila, and what it was being done 24 hours a day. Our initial computation showed that outsourcing is a lot cheaper than maintaining this fleet. So therefore, we developed we determined that by the use of a linear programming model. But that linear programming model was really very instrumental in determining how we shift from fully owned to a fully outsourced delivery system. And at the bottom line is that the decision was to maintain the fleet without replacement until until the units are retired as they reach their useful life. So that's the first mile. Well, the LP model considered all these costs, and the constraints ensured that demand is satisfied and that the warehouse is served exclusively by either the private company or by company-owned haulers. Ayaw nilang magsama-sama in one warehouse, one who delivers from a private company and one who delivers from SMC trucks. So we have discussed some OR applications in the last mile, in the first mile. What about the middle mile? Well, let me introduce to you a company that needs no introduction, namely Amazon. Well, we were in Poznan, in their fulfillment center in Zava, in Poland, and I was really amazed at the amount, the vastness of the area, the magnitude, the number of products it was processing, and yet it was only employing 15 people because everything was, as you know, automated in Amazon fulfillment center. This particular facility is generating more than 500 million US dollars a year. So what is the middle mile for Amazon? So this is the middle mile, just before it goes to the first mile. And I was really amazed. I was really amazed and I couldn't help but imagine the number of optimizations that they have to do to move the product between their thousands and thousands of suppliers, to move the product from the suppliers to the fulfillment centers, to the sorting facilities, to the delivery stations, and then finally to the customers. And then they must also determine the transportation option. Will it be by trucks? Will it be by small cars? Will it be by rail or even by air or over water? What is the most effective route? They had to deal with these decisions day in and day out. So it was no wonder that Amazon got the 2021 Informs Prize. And look at this quotation from the director of the Middle Mile Research Science and Optimization Group of Amazon. He says our tracking network presents us with over 10 octovigintillion possible routing solutions. That's 10 to the 88. This is especially a large number when you consider that there are 10 to the 82 atoms in the visible universe. So you can imagine the extent of analysis that they do. And I am very happy to note that San Miguel is in good company because in 1992, San Miguel won the ORSA Prize. At that time, Informs was known as ORSA, or the Operations Research Society of America. So that's me carrying the heavy plaque. This is actually a handmade glass with the inscription ORSA Prize 1992. And at this time, I had just given birth, and I left a 6-month-old baby at home. This was in San Francisco. That baby's name is Francisco, also known as Franco, who's teaching at the IE department. Another Francisco is here beside me. That's the president. He used to be the president of San Miguel Corporation. So Francisco Esmendi, and beside him is the ambassador of the Philippines to the US, who helped us receive the award as well. And as President Esmendi received the award, I just really was very happy when he even told the story of how during meetings when the divisions would present their plans and Mr. Esmendi would say, has operations research evaluated this? And if they say no, then they are made to go back to their drawing boards and consult us. So that's how powerful and how valued operations research input is. So operations research played a huge role in the expansion program of San Miguel at that time. And nowhere in this presentation do I explain that, but let me just tell you that the expansion program involved OR doing the timing, the phasing of the expansions, and the sizing of the plants. Plants that produce beer, feeds, bottles, plastic crates, crowns, cartons, ice cream, juice, cheese, processed meats, beer bottling plants. At that time, Coke was still with us, so Coke bottling plants and all the warehouses for all the products. This was the extent of the involvement of the OR department at that time. Another Informs award that is being given to every year is the Daniel Wagner Prize, which involves, which are actually awards to papers that have shown innovation. So this one particular application is for a ride-hailing order dispatching system, and it was awarded to BD, which is based in China. So we all know what a ride-hailing system does and what it is. So you open your app, your ride-hailing app, and then you request for a ride to a particular destination, and then the cars that are available are showed, and finally a car comes to pick you up, and then at the end of the trip, your credit card is debited. So you are charged for the ride. And the way the ride-hailing company makes money is that they get a commission from the payment to the drivers. So it makes a lot of sense that the order dispatching is done in such a way as to maximize the profit of the drivers. Now, some of you might say, sa unang tingin, well, that's very easy. Just assign the car that is closest to the passenger. Well, Hold on, because there are some cases such as this. So suppose a passenger there is almost an equal distance between two available cars to him. One is coming from a cold area and another is coming from a hot area. So intuitively, you would say that you would assign the one coming from the cold area to this passenger so that that driver will get more earnings. On the other hand, let's look at another scenario where we have two passengers, and because of low supply, we have just one car, but one passenger is going to a hot area, the other to a cold area. So the dispatching would assign this car to the passenger going to the hot area. So therefore, this shows you that the problem is not that simple because you have to look at the long-term implications. So what next after this? What's next after this? And at the same time, it keeps track of the objectives. One, total driver's income. The fulfillment rate, are all the orders fulfilled? The response rate, how fast was the response? And the pickup distance. So you want to minimize this because that's the portion where the driver does not earn while he's going to the place to pick up the passenger. And this is the mathematical formulation. You see that you are maximizing total driver's income. And this is the algorithm used. As you know, those of you who have taken OR, this is an assignment problem. And one of the algorithms you use for assignment problems is the Hungarian algorithm. So we have taken a ride in a car. Let's take cash from the bank. There you are. You go to the ATM and then you see the sign offline. So as much as possible, you want to avoid, ask the bank for a certain service level, you want to avoid these instances when the ATM is offline. That means it has no money. So this is a project that was done for a national big bank, which had a network of 1,100 ATMs all over the country. The existing system is that they replenish up to 3.2 million whenever the level in the ATM reaches 300,000. So the management's problem was to decrease the cash that is tied up in the ATM. It was 2.1 billion that's tied up in the ATMs. So the OR consultant devised using optimization and Monte Carlo simulation, at the same time looking at the cost to load the ATMs as well as the service levels, came up with this solution. He proposed that the ATMs be classified into three, and they have different amounts at which they replenish, from 3.2 for class A, and start filling it up when the cash dips down to 900,000, and so on. So by dividing the ATM into three classifications, we come up with the cash in the ATM that is lower. Cash tied up was lower by 400 million. So if you're a bank and you have opportunities to invest this in something that earns 10% a year, easily you now have 40 million a year. So that's the benefit of an OR application. Well, so far we have talked about everyday things, but here is an everyday thing that's all around this. So what can OR do about the ongoing pandemic? So I would like to share with you papers that were presented during the Asia Pacific conference, OR conference. And the first one involves the Australian Royal Flying Doctor Service. And this service is being given to citizens or to patients in the remote areas and who have no limited access to Medicare facilities. So they operate 77 aircraft, 140 road vehicles. So what the question that was put before them was, how will the service be affected and what resources must we have for us to be ready for the pandemic? So they used simulation. It's a discrete event simulation with the result that for a category 1 increase in patients, they needed additional 8 flights a day, and for category 2, additional 4 flights per day. And this equipped them to be ready and to be secure that they will be ready to tackle the pandemic. The other example is in New Zealand, where they were concerned about their health facilities. So can our health facilities really carry on the task of giving healthcare to the people who are affected by the pandemic? So they use this model, which indicates the flow from susceptible people to exposed people to symptomatic people, infected and infectious, infected and not infectious who finally recover, or those who die. Now, the pre-symptomatic will further infect other susceptible people as well as infected. So that is the flow of the infections, who infects whom. And this is the pathway through the hospital, because remember, we are talking about how the hospital facilities, specifically the ICU and the wards, will be affected. So the model was put so the infected and infectious go to the ward, or they go directly to the ICU, then they go to the ward again, or they have recovered, and then the others die. So this is what is inside the hospital system. This is actually a very detailed simulation model, which was done on a macro and a micro level. So the output for this model include the estimates of the load on the ICUs and the ward, with the conclusion that in the worst case scenario, the system, the healthcare system of New Zealand will not be able to handle an outbreak. So they were able to control it. And this is due to the policy of New Zealand to go early and go hard. And this was guided by this principle that the faster you can find the cases, isolate the cases, and track their close contacts, the more successful you are going to be. So that is, we are now talking about the R0. Definitely, they have to control their R0 value, or the reproduction rate of the disease. If the R0 is less than 1, the disease will decline and eventually die out. R0 is, that means one infected person infects another infected person, just another one infected person. And here an infected person infects more than one. So this translates into an outbreak. This one is a solid no outbreak, and this one, it will die out. This is assuming there's no vaccination. So the third paper that I will share with you is done in LaSalle. It's determining to whom to give the vaccination. When you want to minimize the fatalities, the most logical was the WHO guideline, which is to vaccinate first the healthcare workers and then go to the senior citizens and those with comorbidities. But when they did this analysis, they found that the R naught was not improving if you go with this protocol. So they developed another model which minimizes the R naught, which told them that for the R naught to be controlled, to be close to 1, you have to give priority to the high transmission age group, which are the people who are working, who have lots of contacts with other people. So that is the same message that is being shown in this paper, which tells us that, again, it's a mathematical model which determines the optimal vaccine allocation. And it depends on your objective. Is it the minimize the number of deaths? Do you want to minimize the symptomatic infections? Or do you want to keep the spread until only the maximum non-ICU and ICU hospitalization? So therefore, the solution on how to allocate the available limited vaccines will depend on the objective. So this is the scenario where there's limited vaccines, which we hope we get out of soon. Now let's go to happier times. These are TV shows. So this is an application we did in San Miguel, and it is called TV Ad Placement Study. And it came about because at that time, that was several years ago, a long time ago, there were a lot of channels, there were a lot of programs to choose from. And therefore, the brand manager was really confused on where he or she would put the advertisements for her product. And if she's getting the best that her advertising budget could buy. Because at that time, prior to the development of the OR model, the brand manager just relies on the ad plan that is being given to her by the ad agency. And there are measures of effectiveness, which is the gross rating points, the target audience rating points. Of course, your product has target audience. A laundry soap, the target audience are housewives in this age range who probably watch telenovelas, or not probably, but because these are data that are really bought by the ad agencies and who is watching what. So the advertising plan contains the TV programs, the channel, the airtime to choose, the number of times the ad is placed. It could be a 30-second ad or a 1-minute ad, and the cost to the advertiser per insertion. Now, we developed a mixed integer programming model, which consistently performed above the agency plan. So obviously, the agencies did not have such a model, and we ended up saving up to 10 million pesos per year per business unit. So that is another OR application. But what is happening? Jerry did mention that the proliferation of digital media, and in a report, it said that ads went down 20% compared to the same period in 2019, that at least 6% of total advertising is now cornered by display and mobile ads, and this does not yet include the social media advertising. So if you look at a survey which was conducted, wherein respondents were asked whether they would invest in their advertisements in 2021, where they would put it in, these people, 61% said they put it in Instagram, 46% on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, and so on. So you see, as Jerry had said, digital media now rules. When you make marketing decisions, probably you will have to use this data, but you still have to use OR. There is opportunity to use OR because in this social network analysis, you get to analyze networks, and probably one potential application is identifying influencers to promote your product. But as Jerry has said, there is data explosion, and welcome to the era of analytics. Jerry said every person generates 1.7 megabytes in 1 second, and this sentence supports that 90% of the world's data has been generated in the last 2 to 4 years, which brings us to the age of analytics. How do you deal with all this data? As Jerry had said, there is so much data. You have to find out which one is useful to you. So with the use of analytics, so that's the value, and that's how difficult it is. So first, you look at descriptive analytics to tell you what happened. Diagnostic, why did it happen? Predictive, what will happen? And this is Jerry touched on this, and OR is actually part of this prescriptive analytics, what to do to make it happen, and this is foresight. So this involves optimization. So OR is here, and OR is here to stay. So going back to the poll, I'm very glad that majority answered that operations research is something that aids in decision making. Because if I were asked to choose just one answer, I would choose that it is necessarily something that aids decision. And that brings us to the definition of operations research. That's my favorite, which is it does use modeling, it does use mathematical models, but the end being is to apply analytical methods to gain insight so that you will be helped in your decision making. So that ends my talk, and I will start sharing.
Thank you very much, Elise. Your presentation brought back a lot of memories. I haven't heard the word eigenvalue in many, many years. And of course, the word of the day is octovigintillion, right? The power of 88. All right. So can I bring back Jerry and Eric? And let's have a quick open forum and tackle some of the questions that are in the minds of our participants. All right, so let me start with a basic question for Jerry. Jerry, you gave us a really interesting presentation and very interesting, impressive work that you've done in the in AI, ML, blockchain, etc. But looking back now, for example, Stay Safe and Rapid Pass. What IE skills turned out to be very critical in you being able to successfully develop those apps?
So I think a couple of things now that's essential in parang becoming successful in what we do. Number one is understanding processes. I think today it's a very process driven world, except that the goal, and to use Elise's term, is to identify the optimal process. Because you can have two different processes that ends up with the same result, diba? But one takes a longer route, the second one takes a shorter route, and sometimes it's dependent on the customer. And I'll cite an example. If you look at SafePass, there are two ways to gain entry to a facility. One is you have to request for entry. Now, this is where establishments would say, I need them to request for entry because I need them to fill up a health questionnaire. That's where we all started. A health questionnaire is required. And then eventually the health questionnaire was taken away. The other process is I just want them to scan in. I don't need anything from them. I just want them to scan in so that I know that they're in. Yung dalawang proseso actually ends up with data of that customer or person being stored somewhere, but it goes through two different paths. So number one is, I think, process. The second one is understanding technology today. No? So you don't have to know how to write the software. You just need to have to keep abreast with what tech can do. Because, uh, like I said before, we were religious about tech, and now it's really what is available today that accelerates the process. No? So that's the second one. The third one is, I think, a lot of people skills. So that's the thing that is hard to teach, but very crucial in delivery, because all of these things require change. So this whole change management concept is real. So when I was a student, people say, reorg, all this change management, to ba yan? And my very first project when I joined SGV was reorg, job evaluation. And I said, do they really need this? The truth is, they do. Because when you create change into the organization, it's useless if you're unable to create the narrative to get people to accept that change. You know? So those are the three things that I think are really important. Yung underlying, basing on Elise's presentation, is yung OR. We just don't know it's OR, but every day it's being used somewhere. No, yung OR skills, because sa analyst team namin, they're called data scientists today, right? But essentially, the data scientists, these are people with a mixture of OR skills and statistical skills. Statistics, I've never researched so much about clustering and k-means something statistical models than now. No? So it's real. Tama talaga yung sinabi mo, Elise, that OR is here and it's here to stay. No? So yeah, that's as far as what I think in sa stay safe and safe pass is concerned, Jomar.
Thanks, Jerry, and thanks for the lead into Elise. Right, Elise. I mean, it's I love how you made OR so understandable to where is OR. It's just like in a previous life when I would be having conversations with clients and talk about the cloud, and they will say, "Well, I don't want to use the cloud." And the first thing I ask them is, "Do you have Dropbox? Do you use OneDrive?" And they realize that they're actually using it. Same thing with OR, right? But Elise, Jerry brought up a very important point: data science, right? That is the catchword right now. And in a recent survey, it was shown that that is the job that everybody wants to get into, moving into the future. OR provides you with that foundation. Can you expound on that one?
Operations research is actually a convergence of various, if an OR person looks at it, a convergence of computer science, statistics, personal, like as Jerry had said, about dealing with psychology, dealing with other people, mathematics, and so on. So I think they are all very much intertwined. And so for me, as long as the end product is giving insight to a decision maker so that he can make a decision, then that for me is operations research.
Thanks. So here's a practical question. I'm currently a student in UP. And I'm taking up IE. I just heard your presentations. Then I graduate. Okay, what are the opportunities for me? Let's say, for example, Jerry, I want to focus on information systems, and there's so many opportunities right now, right? And actually, in the real world right now, my nephew and my niece who live next door are both very much into application development, right? So what is available for me out there? What is it? an entry-level job that I end up getting into? Can you
As an
give me
OR.
an idea?
As an
Well,
OR.
let's start with info systems and then I'll go to OR. OR is more interesting. We'll look for a better way. But Jerry, for information systems.
And, Joms, this is what I tell my sons. So I will share this also with what I for the students. No? Na, on your first job, try not to think so much about what your starting pay is. No. Just to let you know, my first paycheck was 2,700 pesos. And I had a 200 peso advantage because I finished a 5-year program. In other words, we were hired at 2.5 generally. But the amount of experience I think your first job gives you is the most important thing. No, so I'm not saying that money doesn't matter. It does, honestly. But it's important na yung una-una mo talagang experience is something that you really want to build on. So if it's software engineering, I would say that if you really want to build software and you come from a software kunyari, if it's computer science program, that's seamless. Eh. But if you're coming from IE and going into software engineering, I think it's a very short jump. You just need to study lang a little bit more on the new programming languages that are available. Um, More importantly, I think you should track, and using the theme of this webinar is to track where you're going. Now, if you give yourself 3 to 6 months to do something, give yourself 2 to 6 months to do something. Now, my suggestion sa IE today, I think the data science program is very, very interesting. There is not enough data scientists with two things that are sorely missing. One is understanding of business systems and processes. Kasi most of the data scientists or data analysts today are math and stat majors.
Yes.
Therefore, they know statistical models. Pero they don't have enough understanding of business systems and processes. The other thing that I think is missing, and these are where institutions like Escuelabs, so if you've heard of this institution called Escuelabs, are trying to build, is to put technology in the middle. So dati kasi yung analyst, alam niya, statistics lang. Ang IE, ang strong background, business systems. Merong gitna dyan na kailangan, which is the second parang pillar that I think we should put in, is capability to write code. Kahit na Python lang or, I don't even know how to do it very efficiently, but yung capability to write scripts and code is really important because the toolkit for analysts have changed. I'm not sure our analysts are even using equations that were presented by Elise. And I'm worried actually that they don't know that. Because yung foundation kasi is important. Pero yung capability to write code kasi sometimes doesn't remove the necessity but accelerates lang yung implementation. I would still want someone in our analytics team that has a strong understanding of OR. Kasi it is essentially OR. So OR, data analyst, for me, yun yung pinakamagandang progression for an IE graduate now because everybody needs it. I have 4 clients on data analytics. All of them I have to sign a non-solicitations agreement with. Now, I will help you, but don't hire my team. I will help you look because they're hard to come by. They're really hard to come by.
So, thank you, Jerry. Elise, Jerry just did a major plug for OR also, right? So I'm graduating And after watching your presentation right now and then talking about data science, what's an entry level job for OR? Fresh graduate, what can a graduate expect?
Expect in terms of what?
A career, job
Okay, okay.
opportunities.
As you know, it's there are very few companies which have OR departments, and this is the reason why they went into the program of Science of Better, so that it will be better known. Kasi medyo hindi popular yung operations research. But then there are many companies that have actually that do quantitative analysis. In fact, the Operations Research Society of the Philippines has a lot of members who are in private companies in the government sector who do quantitative analysis, which are in the area of OR, and yet their departments are not called operations research. So the graduate who's looking for a job in OR does not necessarily have to look for an OR department. It is San Miguel that has an OR department. There are oil companies that do a lot of optimization in their processing. So that is also an opportunity for them. And I know that the food companies like Jollibee, KFC, they do operations research in terms of load balancing, determining demand, and
Yeah.
determining layouts of.
So it may not necessarily be under a particular OR department, but based on the examples that you shared with us today, with Grab, with food delivery service, and all of this, all the optimization models, that gives you a lot of opportunities
Yes,
outside,
yes, that's.
right?
Mhm.
Let me switch it a little bit. Let me call on Eric. Eric, you are one person who graduated IE, went into the corporate world, and then decided to go back to the academe. Is the academe an option for an OR or an IS track specialization? You're on mute, sir.
Hi, Jom. Yes, well, definitely the academy is always an option, Jom. I've been always telling, even during our meetings, no, that we need graduates to join us, no, in our faculty to beef up our roster, no. Currently, with respect to information system, fortunately, we have a faculty that's really much into it, si Dr. Halaw, and we just had our revised curriculum for our master's program dealing with information systems and analytics approved. It was just approved last week. Is essentially to address also the needs of the industry, those taking masters. As far as OR is concerned, definitely also need people who would like to teach OR. No, we just had one faculty member who resigned. He was one of our OR persons in the department. So I always tell students when they ask, what are the opportunities really for IEs, no? And I will tell them jokingly, the least that can happen to you is be part of the IE department. So now, of course, it's just a joke, no? But definitely, there is always an opportunity sa academe, no, for those who will be specializing in these things.
Thank you, Eric. And you're right. I mean, it's like no matter how good it is in the information systems world or in the OR world, if you don't build the foundation correctly in education, in the academe, it won't be successful. So that's important. Jerry, there's a phone-in question for you. I just jump straight to the question. How do you think can organizations aid the MSMEs, especially the farmers, in transforming their enterprises and digitalizing their transactions in an affordable yet efficient manner?
So we showed this, to one of the banks, which I can't lang share, but this bank is very much involved in agri. So normally, ang farmers kasi, they have the farmers are always put in the center where they're controlled by middlemen. So for us, technology can resolve that. But it depends on how aggressive uh, our stakeholders are willing. So there are and the loans that are given to farmers, and I'm saying formal loans. I'm not even talking of the 5-6. No, the formal loans the formal loans that are given to farmers and on an MSME program are generally not very big. Now, these are way below SME size loans. No? And these are actually can be empowered by tech. No? So hindi ko lang mapakita ngayon but we already shared this in one of the other events that the farmers they can just sign up. They sign up to a
Mhm.
platform that's being run by the banks, and then the farmer uh, is able to get a microloan. No, let's start with 10,000. Meron lang siyang kailangan na fertilizer. 10,000. Okay, the bank would say, sige, bibigyan kita ng 10,000, pero bibili ka from my marketplace.
Mm.
So the bank already connects to the marketplace. No? Can be any of the farm stakeholders also, no? Or guys like Aboites, Pilmico,
Yeah.
who are in that space, diba? So they can now say, okay, I'll give you a 10,000 peso loan. You need this, you buy from this. Now, what do we solve there? First, we solve the red tape. No? Kasi wala ka na masyadong middleman. No? You go from loan, acquisition of funds, to disposal of funds via a marketplace partner. No? Second, you remove red horse in between. Kasi
Mhm.
that's the problem with some of the
Ayaw niyo
microloans.
ilis yung tanggalin ng Red Horse, ha?
Oh,
Kasi that's a San
that,
Miguel product.
I know. That's the problem with microloans. Yung use of proceeds do not go to the
Yeah.
intended purpose. No? That's even what kunyari sila Pure Gold are solving, di ba? Na meron silang OFW program. You send the money, you buy it by Pure Gold. Pure Gold delivers the groceries, no? Para yung intent to buy milk, food, whatever is protected.
Mhm.
So you take away yung risk that the use of proceeds do not go to the intended
In
use.
short,
That's the second.
you try to eliminate the middle mile,
Correct.
to use the terminology that Elise pointed out earlier. Elise, about OR.
Exactly.
I mean, there's always a better way, right? But especially the farmers. I mean, we keep hearing about it. And recently, I had a session with the Department of Agriculture, and they're talking about their aspirations for a digital farm. Where can OR come in to help that?
Well, there are a lot of applications of operations research for development. And I have, in fact, edited a journal which contained all contributions in the area of OR for development. And some of them deal with farmers, but these are in other countries. So, and they deal more with climate change and so on. So I think that if there is a problem that, a specific problem that has to be solved, we will find ways of solving it, whether by use of OR or by use of other methodologies. But if there is no specific problem that's being that we're addressing now, I am afraid I cannot answer the question.
All right, thanks, Elise. But Elise, just to clarify again, because earlier, remember, you said not a lot of companies have an OR department, right?
Yes.
I'm graduating. I want to focus on OR, and I'm looking at the ad placements in social media, because now it's social media. It's no longer classified ads, right?
Yes.
What are the keywords that I need to look for that
Uh-huh.
basically tell me that I will be able to use my OR skills?
Well, the OR function had always been, in my experience, a consulting function. So if people ask for consulting work, that is a potential for OR, especially where consulting involves the use of analytical and mathematical models. So that definitely would fall under OR. And maybe it will not appear as mathematical models, but analytical or quantitative models, people who are open to doing quantitative modeling work, that will definitely be an opportunity to do OR.
Thank you. And that last point, sorry, we're running out of time, but last question to both of you. Jerry brought up a very, very important point, which I personally am very passionate about, which is understanding people, dealing with people. You may have all the technical skills that you learn from OR and from information systems. But I think one skill of an IE is the interpersonal skills that they develop during the time that they're in UP. Jerry, would you like to comment on that one?
Yes, I, I think the skill that we need to pursue is yung capability to collaborate, no? Yung team collaboration effort. Honestly, in my time in UP, in the IE program, I have never done a thesis on my own. I've never done a project on
Yeah.
my own. No, it was always with someone else. It was always with a team. And sometimes the project went a little bit more haywire because it was also because of the team. No?
You were drunk half the
The,
time.
the, the speaker next week, the speaker next week is my teammate in many projects, si Pocholo Agnir.
Yes.
So Pocholo will talk about manufacturing systems. No? So he's I think if we develop that culture of collaboration, we would have better engineers. Hindi yung my way or the highway kind of
Mhm.
thing. More of um, I in our company, I've changed the way we ask questions. When we ask questions today, it's really how can we help you?
Yeah.
It's always about how we as an organization can provide value. Diba? So if our graduates think that way and we're more collaborative, I think managing change is a little bit I wouldn't say easy, but you would have a higher success in managing
Right.
change.
Especially today in a virtual environment where you're not even in the same office. Elise, I'm sorry, I'll change my last question to you because I'd like to accommodate this question that came in through our chat box. From an OR standpoint, do you think that building mega vaccination sites are more efficient and less risky versus compared to small mobile vaccination centers like vaccination buses, given that there still exists a tremendous amount of fear among people to go out?
Um, I don't think I am an expert in that because you have to know the epidemiology, the virus, how it spreads, and so does it spread better in a big area than in a small one? So as usual, alam mo na mga OR, pagka hindi backed by data, we are afraid to give conclusions and commit to a specific answer because that is really something very specific, a big site versus a small site. But I don't know about patterns, how people go and how they are processed and the nature of the virus, how it is transmitted. So I have to know those things before I can give an intelligent answer to that question.
That's a very good answer, Elise. I mean, trust the data, right? It goes back to that. It's what our health experts have been saying. The Okta research and all of this. It's always trust the data. Eric, last words.
Okay, John. So, well, essentially, I'd like to thank, of course, our resource persons for today. I was telling some faculty that maybe we can use some of their presentations as intro to some of our courses in OR and information systems so that we get to excite the students. And I always say it's always better from the perspective of practitioners, no, to tell the students, okay, this is what the opportunities are available to you, no. So and just like what you said, Jom, no, their presentations brought back some memories. Though I'm not more of an OR person, ano, Elise, but I got to remember again those formulas, those algorithms.
Those were
No,
not nightmares, Eric, were they?
yeah, so I'm I don't know, I'm hopeful that our students who have attended today's session really are inspired, no, to go look into these tracks or info systems, you know, as possible options for them.
Thank you, Eric. Maybe it's a good time for you to give out the certificate of appreciation.
The Department of Industrial Engineering and Operations Research awards this certificate of appreciation to Jerry Rapes for imparting valuable knowledge about his experience in the information systems track of the industrial engineering discipline through his talk titled Accelerating Digital Transformation, given this Saturday, May 15, 2021, via Zoom, signed by yours truly. Thank you, Jerry, for sharing your time. And for the next certificate, likewise, the Department of Industrial Engineering and Operations Research awards the certificate to Ms. Elise De Rosario for imparting valuable knowledge about her experience in the operations research track of the industrial engineering discipline through her talk titled A Better Way Through the Science of Better, given this Saturday, May 15, 2021, via Zoom, again signed by yours truly. Maraming salamat po, Sir Jerry and Ma'am Elise, no, for sharing your time and your experience to us and our students.
Thank you very much, Eric. Again, thank you very much to our speakers. To close our event, please welcome the president of the UPIE Alumni Association, Mr. Ricky Peña. Ricky?
Thank you, Jo Marie, for a job well done. And congratulations to the Department of IE and OR, especially to Professor or Dr. Eric. I must say, that what you listened to, from the two speakers that we had, really carries a lot of its weight in gold. Very precious learnings, especially as you embark on an IE discipline or career. To me, it's all a question of relevance. We live in a day and age where things are not the way it was. We are still finding our new normal, and I think that is where people like us, those who show interest in IE, will thrive. We are people who thrive in chaos, because we want to put order, where there is chaos, And I'd like to thank the two speakers, that we've invited. Of course, our Madam Treasurer in the board, Elise Del Rosario. Okay, your talk on operations research, really is very fruitful, to those who listened in, because you presented it from a global perspective, and it tells us how operations research, cuts across industries, and how one can never go wrong, with this track, in terms of building a career, So there's just so much opportunities, especially at this time when there's a need to reimagine, what the new future is going to look like. I like the way you translated the science, the math, the algorithm, into practical applications, and definitely it's something that our students here, should be able to relate, because everybody, uses all these online tools, no, to order and to transact, no, digitally. And that's why, there's a need for us to really scratch, beyond the surface to understand, what are the processes, what are the developments, behind, all of these things that we are using today. Of course, I'd also like to thank Mr. Jerry Rapes, who's my batchmate, batch 87 in IE, for talking about information systems, software development. And here you will see how data is really put to good use to develop new applications. And these are applications that are relevant, relevant to what we need today. So you can just imagine how it cuts across the spectrum, the different applications of IE. So again, thank you to our two speakers. Parting words to the students, and this was mentioned already, but I just would like to emphasize, when you graduate, as IEs, and of course we will be there as your UPIE to welcome you. We look forward to that. But when you start your careers, as Jerry mentioned, don't think too much of the pay. Okay, think of building your career, and being a sponge, to absorb what you can. In school, in UP, I think what you need to do, because you are digital natives, is to start building the discipline while you're still in school. Build that IE discipline of, always looking for the better way. There's always a better way to do things. And then learn the tools. You are very lucky because you have so many tools that were not available to us when we were at UP. Okay, so it's for you to really consider, how can I make best use of the tools around me? And the fact that you are all digital natives already gives you that advantage, to participate in building the new future. Okay, and then very important, especially when you start working, you try to understand the problems around you. Okay, what are the challenges? What are the pain points? And it comes down to having a good people skills. It's by listening and asking the right questions that you're able to understand the problems around you. Okay, and don't be afraid to fail. Okay, that is part of the learning process. Okay, and in IE we are taught about iterations. And iterations is actually a process of failing until you get it right. Okay, and until you're able to come up with a solution. And it's all about delivering the right relevant solution. And in our case today, it's not just about creating the solution, because there's already a lot of solutions available out there. It's just a matter of adapting it to the problem at hand. Okay, so with that, I wish you well, and I hope you really learned a lot from the two speakers. And it's always a joy to collaborate with the UP department of IE and OR. So there's a lot more speakers lined up for the month. So with that, I wish you a good day and keep safe. And see you in the next edition of the Keeping Track, Finding Direction webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. Again, as Ricky just said, please join us next week as we will have another set of speakers talk about the other IE tracks, human factors and production systems. Thank you for participating in today's event. Again, this is John Marie Mercado with Maan de Rosario and Jason Fernandez. It's been our pleasure being your hosts for today. Have a pleasant day and please stay safe. Thank you.